Welcome to the Doom Scroll News Report here on Radio Taiwan International, where I, Amanda Stevens, and my co-host,
Hanna Belinsky,
two writers, political by necessity, cover some of the biggest international news stories dominating our news feeds from the last week. I'm Amanda Stevens, and this week we're tackling what it really means that the strait is blocked up, beyond oil, of course. How scary is Hantavirus, really? And the Met Gala's fun new funder.
Boo.
This was another week where there was a lot in the news. So I stuck to our show motto. I picked the topics I saw on my feed the most, in case people are wondering. That's how we got to the Met Gala, basically. Hanna, you don't strike me as somebody who typically looks at Met Gala roundup looks.
You are correct. Am I that easy to read?
Something about you.
I am not the type of person to follow the Met Gala. However, because I am online, I'm scrolling, the looks are forced upon me anyway. But I'm fine with it because normally it's like the worst of the worst, you know? And it's like a highlight reel of the people who look the stupidest. And I don't know that much about fashion, but I know when someone looks dumb. So it's kind of enjoyable.
I don't typically follow fashion, but I usually do like looking at the Met Gala look specifically.
It depends on the theme, right?
Right. Because I do like commitment to a theme, you know? And so I really love to see the people who ran with the theme and people who like clearly were committed to it, right? And there's some people who like usually show up, like this year Heidi Klum, for example. Her whole thing is like costumes. It's fun to see her.
Wasn't she like a worm one
year? She was. And this time she was like a statue, and it's very creepy and cool.
I'm kind of liking that. She does her own thing. She's like, I'm going to look terrifying.
I don't know anything about Heidi Klum besides the fact that she does like these insane costumes.
Good for her.
And then usually Jared and I shame the people who like show up and they're like,
basic looking.
They're like, I showed up on theme, and it's like a silly hat. And we're like, that's it? Like, that's it? Or like, wow, I did something new and innovative and I wore a black suit.
Wow.
It's a lot of dudes who are like, I did something different. I'm like, okay, sure. All right. Just commit to the costume once. This year, of course, there was a lot more buzz. It wasn't anything about that. It was about the people that they invited, which has been a topic of ridicule before.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, but now's not the time because we're going to start with a section that I titled, What's Even Going On with the Strait of Hormuz?
Good question.
I double check. Yep, that's still what it is.
Yep.
And I think that does hold up. I think that holds up. So for reference, we're recording this on Friday, May 7th. I don't usually like to date it, but the situation is likely to change by the time that you listen to this. And I mostly want to focus on why it's been so hard to keep up with what's going on. And what ongoing effects beyond the crazy soaring oil and energy prices, which will hopefully keep the segment a little bit more evergreen, so to speak. But just in the last week, I don't know how much of this you've seen, Hanna. We have heard that, and these, I will say, all of the following are announcements that I have heard over the last week. The strait is closed. The U.S. will blockade the strait. The U.S. will ferry boats through the strait for a price.
Here we go.
The blockade is a friendly blockade. The U.S. is actually not ferrying boats through the strait. The blockade is back on. And at multiple points in time, that Iran and the United States are shooting at each other over the strait or interfering with these plans.
Yep.
And that's just from the English language reporting. Yep. It's been a lot. And in part, it's because the two sides, Iran and the United States, are both set on being the one power who's deciding on getting in and out, right? Another factor is that the Trump administration is literally changing its mind on a day-by-day basis, which is driving a lot of the English news, right?
Yeah.
And thirdly, there's the fact that shipping companies have just stopped trusting these guarantees.
Yep.
And this is the news I've seen the most this week, with many interviews saying that no matter what either side says, few to none of the ships that are waiting are willing to even attempt the passage until both sides commit to and demonstrate the safety of a long-term plan.
Right.
And since no actual end to the conflict besides the short-term ceasefire has been announced, that doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. And I said that there are multiple resources for this. I have linked an interview by the AP, so you guys can look at that one if you want to check it. I mean, as for this news, we've been surprised before, but are you even trying to keep up with the news about the Strait still, Hanna? And do you think that it's even worth it at this point?
So I inevitably write about the topic because, we're on news shift.
We're on news.
And it comes up here and there. So I do keep up with it kind of against my will. The last time I wrote about it just earlier this week was because 1,600 ships were stuck in the strait at the time.
So many.
8 of them were Taiwanese. It's a big mess.
Evergreen, yeah.
But is it worth keeping up with? I actually do care about and keep up with the news about the downstream products of oil that impact all these other essential products that you're about to get into, because
that was what I was concerned about.
My son is developing a crazy appetite and I'm cooking all the time. So I have to care.
You hate this news. I'm so sorry about what I was writing last night. I did think about you though, because I was like, man, she's got a growing baby boy.
Exactly. I'll get into it, but you explain the situation.
Yeah. So I'm going to explain Hannah's woe.
Yes, my woes.
Not just Hannah's, all of ours, really. So
we're all going to feel it.
Everybody knows that this is bad for shipping, obviously. And of course, for oil and natural gas, which is where a lot of the news has been focused. But just as an example, here in Taiwan, we've had a plastic bag shortage because plastic is a derivative of petroleum, something I forget all the time. And this got me thinking, what other products may we not even realize are being affected, right? So there are, again, many articles on this, but the BBC had my favorite version so far of this article because it tied the products directly to where we're likely to see the biggest impacts.
Yes.
The list includes some things you've heard before. I know I've heard all of these things lots of times before, but basically until last night, I didn't really think about it. It includes fertilizer, helium, sulfur, and then they lumped all the petrochemical derivatives or petroleum derivatives, right, together, which are likely to affect, in the same order, global food supplies, semiconductors and by relation smart devices, batteries of all levels, things for your car to if you still use a Walkman or whatever.
Toys. Got toys at home. Battery
and finally, medicines.
Yeah.
All kinds of medicines. I saw my painkillers there and that made me very upset.
And IV bags too, because they're made of plastic.
And MRIs because they need helium. So before we get into this, these things, this list doesn't mean that there is going to be a catastrophic dip and that suddenly we're just not going to have these things anymore, right?
It's not that dire.
But it does mean that they'll cost significantly more and that countries may have to pursue less favorable alternatives to procure them. So let's just take fertilizer as an example, the very first one on the list.
That's really the biggest one, I think.
I think so. So according to projections by the World Trade Center via that BBC article, the fertilizer shortage is likely to affect food prices. And it lists 5 of the most likely to be affected countries. I zeroed in on Taiwan, which is one of those. Taiwan's food prices are projected to be increased by 13%.
And it's already been going up for a long time.
Right.
So it's
and this is
at
the current level of not getting through, right?
The damage is all going to
depend.
The damage is already
It's going to depend on how much longer things go on. It will only get worse, right?
Right.
But as things stand right now, Taiwan food prices are projected to increase by 13%. One of the highest producers of fertilizer after the Middle East is Russia. You might remember they're also in the middle of a war, and they would definitely love to get in on that sweet, sweet fertilizer money. In that same article, the foreign minister, someone there was like, we're really excited to see this kind of projection for us.
Great.
The most insidious thing about the fertilizer shortage, or where it is right now, though, is that even if shipping eventually gets back up to normal, let's say it goes back to where it was, the growing seasons, aka the ones most in need of fertilizer, will have likely already passed because they start in March. And that's just one thing on that list. But Hannah, were there any things on the list that surprised you besides this one? And what ones do you think that you'll feel the most? I mean, food. We started talking about that.
So I did separate research on this.
Yeah.
And I think in Taiwan, we're primarily going to feel it in the price of cooking oils. And the price of wheat products, because we import all of our wheat products, like noodles.
You cannot grow wheat in Taiwan.
And like I said, I have to feed a very hungry man, and I'm buying nice cooking oils. I'm getting olive oil, flaxseed oil, because I think it's it's important. He gets the good fats, so it's expensive anyway. But the fact that it's going to get more expensive, probably toward the end of the year, based on what I have read, that has actually motivated me to stock up ahead of time, expecting the price to inflate further. And noodles. I stocked up on noodles. And rice. So all these shelf-stable things that we eat a lot of. You know, it's funny.
The basics, like really what we look at as pantry basics.
Yes, it's staple foods. And it's funny the way raising a kid will change how you read the news. Like I have never really gave it that much thought before, but like I have to keep up now. Like I have to know because he's hungry
and he's gonna get bigger. He's gonna just keep eating more and more. You know. Anyway, back to Hormuz, and just sort of to wrap it up, there was some news late last night. Iran has now imposed some new rules on transit through the waterway, or they're attempting to. They're basically trying to make themselves the one who gets to vet all the ships that go through the waterway with a 40-question application and potentially fees for safe passage, which some news organizations have estimated to be like $2 million per ship.
It's like pirate stuff, kind of.
Kind of. In other news, China may have finally come to the bargaining table. The United States, at least, if not other countries, have really been trying to get China to leverage their power in this. And to be fair, they have a lot at stake with this because China is one of the largest buyers of Iranian oil and many other products, which have been stalled at least since last March.
I believe I saw just yesterday that Iran is trying to meet with Xi ahead of the Trump-Xi meeting because they anticipate this being discussed between him and Trump, and they want to get in advance.
I wouldn't be surprised. But as is often the case, this is still ongoing, and we don't really have enough to report on beyond this.
I think no matter what happens now, the unfortunate truth is the consumer is going to absorb all of the impacts.
You know it's going to go just to us.
Yes. So if you, like me, have a bottomless pit at home, then I really
God
do.
Forbid, multiple.
I really actually encourage you to look into how the fertilizer shortage may impact food prices in your country and plan ahead a little bit.
Or medicines.
It's coming. Yes. Or medicines. All your essentials.
Okay. So the next topic I didn't expect at all, but it has kind of led to some scary looking headlines, mostly because of the words virus outbreak. And I won't lie, I was a little triggered.
We're all a little bit triggered. We've had some bad experiences.
It's not been good in the last 5 years to see
say
those
the
headlines.
least.
So let's talk about the hantavirus because I think it's a very reasonable reaction to get scared when you see those words. And also, like, what even is it? Because I hadn't even heard about the virus before this year, although it's not a new disease. So let that be the first comfort. So the following information is derived from coverage provided by The Guardian, who did an interview with Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine's Professor Jonathan Ball. That's where all of this information about hantavirus is coming from. Hantavirus is actually present all over the world. But the first thing that you should know is that it is very rare in humans insofar as diseases go. It's spread mainly through rats and specifically coming into contact with urine or feces of an infected rat, which is one blessed reason for the rareness in humans.
Yuck.
Now, interestingly, Ball says that the disease is often sorted into New World and Old World strains, or those mostly from the Americas and those from Europe, Asia, and Africa. This is mainly because they're symptomatically similar. New World hantavirus can cause severe breathing issues, and this is like at its worst. And the Old World virus can cause hemorrhagic fever and renal issues.
That sounds bad.
Again, at its worst. Luckily, most people who get the virus are actually asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms. But unfortunately, there is a 5 to 15% chance of mortality for those who become very ill because, as you can guess, those really bad symptoms are actually just really bad.
Which is a pretty high mortality rate.
Human-to-human transmission only occurs in cases of very close contact. So typically only between family members or healthcare workers, and it may be sexually transmitted. There are no specific treatments for the disease itself, so treatments often tackles the symptoms of the disease, such as assistance breathing, since that's one of the most disastrous
Same with
symptoms.
any virus,
Yeah. The greatest protection against the disease is honestly just to avoid contact with rodents. The number of times I've seen that this week has been crazy. But that also includes, like, avoid hanging out in places with large rodent populations. So that's hantavirus.
Everything I have learned about hantavirus, I only learned because of recent coverage in the news and because Taiwan has been freaking out about rats.
I mean, fair is fair. This is a good time to freak out. We have had a sudden rat explosion.
But I think someone developed like a whole rat tracking app for rat sightings around the city, which it just seems a little silly because it's a city. There's gonna be rats.
City with night markets.
You know, yeah, it's a very densely populated.
Day markets and night markets.
You're gonna run into some rats.
Mm-hmm. We just gotta be careful, you know?
Yes.
So let's get into why this has been in the headlines. The virus has sort of had somewhat of a heyday because there has been an outbreak on a cruise ship, which has tragically led to the death of 3 people. And that just is straight up very sad. The WHO announced the WHO, not the band. Mm-hmm. The WHO announced they were investigating the situation last Sunday, which I think is when most people became aware of what was going on. Mm-hmm. The boat left from Argentina, which means that it's likely to be a New World variant. Mm-hmm. And the case is still under investigation as of recording because the ship is currently stranded off of Cape Verde in Africa. Mm-hmm. That said, out of a total of 8 suspected cases, including 3 deaths and 1 evacuated man, 5 are confirmed to be hantavirus cases. Mm-hmm. Passengers are isolated, and the ship has enacted extra precautions. But the biggest problem has been where for it to go.
Yeah.
The ideal next steps would be to get everyone off the boat to treat those affected and test those not showing symptoms, which would also allow for a more thorough investigation of the ship. However, the ship was denied docking at Cape Verde by officials there on the basis of public health.
Everyone's playing hot potato with it.
I mean, it's unfortunately another concern. It's not yet clear how this infection began, so anywhere that takes the ship will need to be able to stop a potential public health outbreak.
Right.
Luckily, the ship is expected to dock at the Canary Islands over the weekend to begin those next steps, which are to, get everybody off the boat for testing and for treatment, and then to deep clean the boat with nobody on it.
Just burn it.
So listeners will once again be more informed than we are here, Hanna. And this whole situation has had people worried about the potential for another COVID outbreak. The WHO's officials are struggling to assure the public that this is not the case. And people should also consider that cruise ships make really good incubation beds for illnesses. This ship, for example, was on a 40-day cruise, basically through the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. But how do you feel now, Hanna, that you have all of these facts as we currently understand them? Do you think the concern is warranted, or is this sort of the media making a meal out of an isolated incident?
I do think everyone is just kind of gun shy after the whole COVID thing.
I get it.
Understandably so. But the risk seems exaggerated because even Andean hantavirus, which as I understand it is the
they
strain,
believe this is the strain,
that can jump between humans, it's not actually that transmissible. Now, COVID had this perfect criteria of highly transmissible, infectious when you don't have symptoms, and a generally lower mortality rate. Mm-hmm. And the hantavirus, based on what I've read about it, it's not nearly as transmissible. It's only infectious when you're symptomatic, and the mortality rate is high enough that reduces its ability to spread. Because if something kills a large number of its hosts, then it's going to be self-limiting.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, it has felt clickbaity, although it does have me on somewhat higher alert because we live in a city.
As we were just talking about, there's been a rat explosion.
There are rats. They're a fact of life. But genuinely, I think we're going to be okay. And I'm saying this as a lifelong hypochondriac and germaphobe who would never set foot on a cruise ship.
I feel the same.
No way.
This has really been a lesson in me. Back to, I don't want to cruise.
No way.
Yeah. Well, as I promised at the top of the episode, the Met Gala 2026 popped off last weekend with the theme of Amazon and fashion is art. But honestly, according to my feed, it was Bezos themed.
Yeah.
So in case there's anyone who doesn't know, the Met Gala is an annual fundraiser for the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute. It's a famous museum in New York. Mm-hmm. And this gala/ball is basically an event with a very strict dress code and a theme that changes every year. Guests include A-listers from all walks of fame who buy their ticket. Also, though, I believe there's a level of you have to be invited and then you are allowed to buy a ticket. I don't think there's some restrictions on who gets in.
There's levels to this.
There are levels to this. And I didn't look that deeply into it because this wasn't the most serious story. This wasn't the important part. And then that ticket price is used for the fundraiser. So that's how it's still making money. This year, the biggest donors were Jeff and Sanchez Bezos. And the internet and New York City, where the ball is hosted, were not having it. So protests at the Met Gala in general are pretty common, but this year they sort of outdid themselves with some of the most creative that I've ever seen. According to the New York Times, many were staged by the anti-billionaire activist group Everyone Hates Elon. Obviously in reference to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Leading up to the event, the group put up posters in transit stations and subway cars around the city calling for a boycott of the event, placed nearly 300 bottles of fake urine inside the Met itself.
Love that.
And that's in reference to Amazon workers not being allowed to take bathroom breaks. Right. And they projected video interviews, huge video interviews with Amazon workers onto the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and the Bezos' penthouse near Madison Square Park.
Very cool.
Including the line, if you can buy the Met Gala, you can pay more taxes. And that happened the evening before the gala. These all reminded me personally of the way that the rich and powerful and evil have often tried to create or keep art as sort of a status symbol. And this article even taught me the word reputation laundering.
Yeah,
so thank you.
That's interesting.
Which is sort of my opinion of this entire thing, of the Bezos being allowed to participate in this event. But, Hannah, what are your thoughts? What do you think that these protests may have had? What sort of effect may they have had? And what are your thoughts on the Bezos' involvement in the event in the first place?
It's funny because my favorite story from the Met Gala this year that was put in front of my face on my feed.
Yeah, that you were unwillingly asked to read.
It was how incredibly boring Bezos' Botoxed up wife looks in her dress that looks like every other dress she wears.
She wears the exact same dress.
Always
now,
the
again,
same
would
dress.
we normally talk about fashion? No, but this is literally a fashion show with the theme fashion.
Yeah. So
and she wore the same dress that she wears to every event, but this time in black.
It speaks to just how uncreative and soulless I think these people are. But, I have very much gotten aboard the billionaire hate train.
I was sort of reading about these and I was like, am I allowed to say that I want to sign up for Everyone Hates Elon?
I'm over millionaires too. I'm over celebrity culture. I am done with these people. I don't care. I only want to hate on them if I pay any attention to them at all. I am looking up how the Strait of Hormuz is going to affect the price of rice.
I thought it was an interesting contrast,
Literally, because my son wants to eat handfuls of rice out of the pot, I have to be able to buy rice.
And this is his right. He's a young boy in Taiwan. Why can't he eat handfuls of rice?
So read the room. I hate you people. I hate you. I live in real life.
Did you know? I also really wanted to tell you this. This is the reason why there are 2 articles attached to this, even though the second one I didn't use at all. Did you know that this was the first event that Zuckerberg was allowed to join?
What? Wait, I didn't even see. How was he dressed?
You know it wasn't interesting. That's why you didn't see it.
He should have leaned in and dressed up as a worm. He should have tried to do they're never going to be that interesting.
He actually should. No. He should have dressed up as Facebook. That would be fun. But that's not art. The theme fashion is art. They don't know either one of these.
Blech.
So anyway, if you guys are actually interested in looking these up, I would say look up all of the protests that happened in New York. I was really moved by them. I thought that they were really interesting.
The videos were cool.
That got my attention. And I hope that it helps them pass that massive tax the rich bill in New York City. So anyway, let's go. And that's all the time we have for today's news report. A quick reminder that you can find all of our referenced articles in the show notes for today's episode. I'm Amanda Stevens.
I'm Hannah Belinsky.
And thanks for joining us on Air Today. Tune in tomorrow for more programs by Radio Taiwan International. And in the meantime, remember to stop scrolling and touch grass.
And hate billionaires.
We'll see you next time.
Visit RTI at rti.org.tw.